It's another rideabout around Siem Reap, Cambodia in Southeast Asia. This is the bypass. So when you go into the city centre, it's very rare that you'll see a huge truck. This road bypasses the whole of Siem Reap. And I thought it'd be fun to play a game today. The game is, let's spot the electric car, the EV. How many Teslas can you see? How many electric vehicles can you see in this video, which is going to run for about 70 minutes. And while we're searching on this beautiful day, let's talk more about these fabulous electric vehicles. Now, a couple of days ago, I did do a video related to electric vehicles, the battery pack, the cost of it, we briefly touched on the insurance as well. And I did get one or two people who absolutely agreed with me, and I did get the electric vehicle lovers. Now, if you can charge at home, and you have that luxury, you could say, and you're just driving it for a roundabout town, I think, yeah, it's fine. It's just a very expensive vehicle with not many moving parts or working parts. I can guess that the battery pack is the thing which costs a lot of money and very, very expensive to replace if it gets damaged or it just runs out of battery. All batteries, even a battery in your phone, will one day stop working. It just deteriorates over time. And if you're happy with that, fantastic. And that's what you use your electric vehicle for. It's more of the long distance, which I was quoting you on. Now, the manufacturer will say, for example, it runs for 500, 600 kilometers. But the fact is, according to a lot of people who do have electric cars and do drive long distances, say this is not true, and it may more be like 400, possibly 450 kilometers. So then you have to go to the charging station. And this is the whole thing about electric vehicles. It's going to take 45 minutes to 1 hour to charge your car. While you may be in a petrol station, for example, and you will see cars come and go, filling up their car with juice, paying and then disappearing within under 10 minutes. Another thing is these charging stations, they never seem to be undercover. So if it's raining, snowing, incredibly hot sun, you're going to get wet or you're going to get rather hot with this. And a lot of newbies who would have a electric vehicle may see two charging points, like two cables on one charging station. This doesn't mean you can charge two cars in most cases. In some it does, but in majority it doesn't. It's telling you which cable you can use. Now, if you're a Tesla driver in a lot of places around the world, you are going to have, it's going to be a much better than if you have a Volvo EV or a Chrysler or a Renault or even the only Toyota that has a EV brand. So if you're lucky enough to find one which is actually working, then maybe you have to go to the application, register your credit card with that, which may take time, or you have it already and there's, like in the UK, maybe 5 or 6 different kind of charging stations. And with that, you'd have to download the app. Once it's done, possibly it just gets a lot smoother. But what a lot of people who drive the EV cars and they are using these charging stations are basically saying, can't you just use the touch and go, the contactless payment system on your credit card or your debit card? That's what people want. So if you're lucky enough to find a charging station. It's relatively high speed. It's going to take 45 minutes. If it's going to be like a public holiday, you may have to wait. There was a video in China earlier this year. I think it was in October. It was their national day, a 7-day weekend. And basically, people were waiting 2 to 3 hours to charge their car. And then they had to do another 45 minutes. And some people were charging it over 80%. From 80 to 100%, it takes the longest time, where 80% should be fine to get to your next charging port. And then the expense of these charging stations. There was a video on YouTube when they were driving a BMW e-machine and a normal BMW, and they started one place in London, and then they had to get to Leeds, whatever the actual distance was, and it was actually cheaper to use the petrol car, and that sort of defeats the purpose. The whole purpose, you could say, the whole purpose of having an electric car is it's cheaper to run. So people are willing to pay for more of an expensive car, then it's cheaper to run in that way. Example, I bought a Honda motorbike and it was top of the range, but the actual cost of running it, apart from the gasoline, let's say the oil, the engine oil and the gear oil, is a lot cheaper to run. So if you pay more, surely it should be cheaper. In most cases, not all. And again, we refer to the guy who did like 170,000 kilometers in a Hyundai, I think it was. And with that, the battery sort of like died. Just to have a look at the electric vehicle for the service, it's a premium. And that cost him $500 American dollars just to have a look at the car. And then they quoted him over $50,000 for the replacement of the actual battery pack, which is just a big rip-off, a big scam. Because these battery packs are sealed, they will say you have to replace the whole lot, not individual cells. I'm sure you could find a company which could do this, who understand electric vehicles, they're mechanics who can. But this is a very slow process. So would I buy an electric vehicle? The answer really is no. One, they are well overpriced. Two, here in Cambodia, I've been here for 8.5 years. I have seen one electric car in a hotel, and it had their own charging station. This is about 5 years ago. I remember it was a BMW. It was sort of unique at the time. In Cambodia, there's a population of 16 million people, and it's very, very rare that you would see any pollution. Some other stories that I read from some of the comments was that BYD, Beyond Build Your Dreams, that's the name of the company, a Chinese company, are the world leader in electric vehicles. That may be the case, I really don't know. They're pretty new, but only time will tell. Like, if you had a choice between a BYD and a Tesla, which one would you go for? Most people would say an actual Tesla, one, because there's loads of charging stations and you possibly can get from Los Angeles to Miami, for example, or New York. It will take a long time, but you can use it via charging stations. In other cars, you may not have the connection cable, or you're not allowed to actually charge it on a Tesla station, charging station. You would have to go and find something separate. And again, the connection cable can be a pain in the backside. I think that bit is improving. On another video that I saw on YouTube, this man was driving a Porsche electric vehicle. It actually looked really nice and fancy. And then he's saying that the government is promoting the electric vehicles. But when they go from, let's say, 10 Downing Street or the White House to the next destination, they are using a gas guzzling car. In the United Kingdom, usually it would be a Land Rover or a Jaguar. It runs by petrol. So again, a lot of the governments, they don't practice what they preach. Going back to what I was saying earlier, maybe this is just a rumor, don't know, but BYD, what they're saying is if they see any smear campaign or people report a smear campaign against their own brand, they will pay 750,000 American dollars. Whether that's true or not, literally about 10 minutes before I made this video, I saw this comment. Please let me know in the section below. What would possibly make me want to buy an electric vehicle? One, the price. It needs to dramatically reduce. Two, whether I can charge it at home. Now, I do live in a house and that would be a possibility. But three, if you lived in an apartment, or you could say an apartment, it doesn't, and you have outside parking and you live on the 4th floor, how can you charge it? The only way you could possibly charge it would be through the charging stations, which in the UK cost an arm and a leg. So the cost, whether I could charge it at home, would I use it for long distance? I could say not. I think it's you would actually have to have possibly 2 cars, one for just about town and it's electric, that's fine, and you can charge it at home. Then you could drive, you could say, from the outskirts of London to the city centre of London, and it's going to be very cheap to run. But if you were driving from London to Scotland, for example, and you're doing this maybe once or twice a week, then you're going to spend a long time, an expensive time in the charging stations, if you can find a charging station that actually works. And come holiday time, then you may be waiting at this charging station for a long time, looking at the cars in the gasoline station who would only take 10 minutes to do so. And the final thing about the electric vehicle, which we did touch on before, is all the electronics inside. Now, the front dash, I think that should have your kilometers per hour, it should have your battery charge in front of you, and it should have your revs per minute and how many miles you can or kilometers you can drive. Because then you're not really keeping your eyes off the road, and that's what people are used to. Tesla don't have this, but I really think they should have this in front console rather than the side. And your center console, I think it should be a lot easier to operate. In other words, you have one button for the air conditioning. If it's going to be completely electric, one button for the air conditioning. You press it and then you can control your climate control. Then you move on to your navigation. That's another button. Then your music, etc., etc. And all the other toys that you have should be in a sub-menu. So the necessity of the actual things that you need to drive. You don't want to press a million buttons taking your eyes off the road for a long period of time. You just want to take your eyes off the road for a second or two. And maybe some manual buttons which are easy to access, not in the center console, but your volume control should be on your steering wheel. You should be able to change the radio on your steering wheel, etc. Voice call. Now, there's lots of cars that do that, but some that don't, and you just have to go into the iPad in the center of the car, fumbling your way around. So it's not user-friendly. Now, I'm not saying all these cars are like this, but there are some that you just have to take your eyes too much off the road. This is not just the electric vehicles about the center consoles. I would say it's all vehicles. Like the car that I'm in the market for in 2024 does have the center console, and you can plug it into CarPlay or Car AirPlay or whatever it's called, And that's where your music is, and then your navigation, where you can use the Google Maps on there. And the heating or the air conditioning is completely separate. It's like the old-fashioned way of being there. And that's how I think it should be. You want to concentrate on the road. You don't want to concentrate on your entertainment, messing around with buttons all the time. And one more thing to mention, going back to fully related to the electric vehicles, is the driving assistance. Now, can you turn it off? Can you just drive a electric car normally without the car doing it by itself, saying you are wrong, and he or the computer or whoever is driving it, the electronics, is right? I think that should just have one button, on and off, on and off. Not like the BYD where you would have to turn it, you'd have to go into settings, then turn it, 3 different things you would have to turn off. There was one guy on one YouTube video who actually went to the fuses of the car and then took the fuse out so he could just drive his BYD normally. Then he started to actually love the car. Your comments, please, in the section below. Please do subscribe if you're interested. I don't just talk about electric vehicles, but they seem to be the hot topic at the moment, and I'm just putting in my halfpenny bits here. Maybe I'm right, maybe I'm wrong. It's just my point of view with watching quite a few videos. For the people who love these electric cars, that's fine. Congratulations. If you're happy with it, great. But there's a lot of videos who buy these cars, these electric vehicles, and they say, oh my God. And the things that really sort of, like, you can say piss me off would be these car dealers who would say, yes, the BYD is absolutely amazing. And they will do very small negatives and they will do lots of positives. But you feel like they're just trying to sell the car for you. And a BYD is in control of that, so they would make sure that it's all positive. You could say this is like the Chinese government making sure everything is all honky-donkey. Yes, the communist Chinese government in the West. So they should have someone like Jeremy Clarkson from Top Gear, or when he used to do the Grand Tour, and maybe do a challenge using an electric vehicle from, I don't know, Alaska all the way down to Valparaiso in Chile, and see how they can, and maybe compare it to a vehicle of the same price. You can imagine which car would win, and the actual durability, the comfort, all the bips and bobs inside. It needs an honest review of, and something like a challenge through Jeremy Clarkson, through these great TV programs before, but you just don't seem to find them anymore, and you haven't really found someone who has actually done this kind of thing. And I hope someone will in the future, exposing the good things and the bad things about electric vehicles. For me, no, it's a long way off. You can't really buy electric vehicles here in Cambodia, and I would just stick to the gas guzzling car in the future if I do go for a car in 2024. God bless to all, and have a happy day wherever you are. Thank you.